When the Soviet Union finally collapsed, the world watched the visible empire break apart. But as the dust settled, a chaotic geopolitical vacuum emerged, leaving vast and deadly arsenals scattered across newly independent nations. While the international community kept strict tabs on Finnish nuclear missiles, they completely overlooked something else: vast stockpiles of raw, unmonitored atomic material. One of the most dangerous forgotten inheritances sat in the frozen steppes of Ust-Kamenorsk, Kazakhstan. Deep inside the decaying Ulba metallurgical plant, nearly 600 kilograms of highly enriched uranium-235 was sitting in a warehouse, secured by little more than a standard padlock. To put that in perspective, that is enough weapons-grade material to build dozens of nuclear devices. In the wrong hands, this single, unguarded stockpile could permanently shift the global balance of power. Intelligence reports confirmed the worst fears. Iranian and North Korean procurement networks were already tracking the material, moving assets into the region to buy the unprotected uranium. Recognizing the immediate threat, Washington and the newly independent Kazakh government forged a highly classified agreement. Authorized by the Clinton administration, the mission was codenamed Project Sapphire. The operation required the logic of a reverse heist. Instead of breaking into a heavily guarded fortress to steal an asset, an American team had to sneak into a highly vulnerable location, extract the asset, and lock it away safely. Project Sapphire had become a high-stakes race against the clock to prevent the birth of a global nuclear black market. In mid-November 1994, a specialized extraction team of military logistics experts and nuclear scientists flew directly into a massive Arctic storm, touching down under the cover of a blinding blizzard. What they found inside Warehouse 10 was a logistical nightmare. The uranium was scattered across a disorganized horde of fragile, decaying tin cans, some of which were actively leaking toxic elements. Working grueling 12-hour shifts in sub-zero temperatures, the team had to meticulously weigh, chemically test, and catalog thousands of these highly unstable containers by hand. The extraction required transferring sparking, toxic uranium oxide powder out of the rotting tins and into more than 500 shock-resistant steel shipping casks. The sheer physical exhaustion of the team proved a harsh reality about global security. Keeping weapons of mass destruction off the streets relies on brutal, highly dangerous manual labor long after the policy papers are signed. Once packed, a midnight convoy of heavy flatbed trucks hauled the casks out of the facility. They navigated icy, treacherous roads toward the airfield, fully aware they were completely vulnerable to an ambush in the freezing fog. When they finally reached the tarmac, a catastrophic weather crisis was waiting. A severe ice storm threatened to ground the planes entirely, which would leave the payload stranded and exposed to the black market buyers closing in. The pilots had a massive risk to calculate. Defying standard safety protocols, they pushed their C-141 Starlifters down the icy runway, choosing to lift off into a frozen storm with a half-ton of radioactive material in the cargo hold. The escape required a tense 20-hour transatlantic journey. The aircraft performed multiple mid-air refuelings while flying completely dark, avoiding standard commercial routes and global flight tracking networks. The success of the getaway hinged on one terrifying calculation. The crew was willing to risk a fatal aviation disaster in order to prevent a far worse nuclear catastrophe on the ground. Just before Thanksgiving in 1994, the planes touched down safely. The payload reached American soil without a single leak or incident. The casks were quickly transported to the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, where they were locked away inside a highly secure underground vault. This diagram shows exactly how they neutralize the threat. By taking the highly concentrated weapons-grade isotopes and heavily diluting it with stable natural uranium, scientists permanently degraded the material through a process called downblending. The ultimate irony of Project Sapphire is what happened next. The exact same uranium that threatened to ignite a global conflict was processed into fuel rods and now peacefully powers millions of homes across the country. The global community only learned about the operation after it was already over. When the White House finally declassified the mission, it sent shockwaves through international security circles. Project Sapphire established the modern logistical blueprint for how nations could quietly cooperate to secure loose nuclear material before it falls into the wrong hands. Yet the most tangible evidence of the mission remains incredibly quiet. Just a few rusty tin cans left behind in glass cases, physical artifacts of a shadow war that almost tore the globe apart. The extraction team successfully secured the material in total secrecy, but that triumph highlights a chilling reality. The fall of an empire leaves many blind spots, and it forces us to wonder exactly how many more unmonitored stockpiles are still out there, waiting in the dark.